Mornings from 7 to 10 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hunt and Hill. Hunt Palmer, Jeremy Hill, holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. It's Hunt and Hill. Now on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome in, Hunt and Hill on a Wednesday from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city. I am Hunt Palmer, no Hill this week. Casey Gaines and Taylor Sharp back there on the ones and twos. We are loaded here in hour number one of this Wednesday show. I know the New Orleans Saints are on the practice field, and we are certainly going to talk about that today. But as video continues to surface, as interviews are done, quotes begin to be published, going to kind of let some of that marinate a little bit and let it all come out. We'll get to the Saints in hour number two. But the good news and the big news out of Saints camp today is that Michael Thomas is out there giving it just about a full go. He didn't go in the full team sessions, but ran all the individual routes. Looked very good. The word was that he went through an early workout this morning. The Saints were thrilled with what they saw, and they let him go out there with the team. So a lot of updates on Saints camp in hour number two. Hour number one, we got a couple really great guests. I'm looking very much forward to both conversations. Jake Flint is LSU Director of Athletic Development, which I think a lot of us might say strength coach, but Director of Athletic Development works just fine for me. We'll talk with Jake here in 15 minutes. He has had the team all summer. He's kind of relinquished those duties as they kind of take a little bit of a break, and they report to fall camp here very shortly. We want to get an update on Jake's first year here in Baton Rouge as the head boss in the weight room and what the team looks like. And we'll chat with Jake here in 15 minutes. And then Brady Neal, a big-time signee for this LSU baseball class, was drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers and would have to sign a contract by August 1st. Sounds like Brady is making plans to stay here in Baton Rouge, and we'll talk to him at 12:30, so very much looking forward to talking with Brady. But we want to open the show here today, maybe a little bit unorthodox, on a day where the Saints hit training camp, and we got a lot of football to talk about in that way. But I started thinking today, and there's a lot of changes that have gone on in the world of college football over the last, 10 years, 5 years, 2 years. And, of course, the college football playoff is one of them. We went from just crowning a champion with a couple of polls to the BCS to a college football playoff. And now one of the hot button topics has been whether or not to expand the playoffs. And it appears that an expansion is coming. And there are a lot of people on both sides of that issue. I'm going to plant my flag today. And I've given it some thought, and I think I know what my favorite solution would be. In full disclosure, as I have thought about these things in the past, and as we've discussed them in the past, it's almost always been for me, what does it mean for LSU? And certainly LSU would be affected by this change, but I'm going to look outside that box a little bit today, which is not something I do very often. I'm pretty LSU-centric in the way that I think about sports. But my determination, after giving it some thought, looking at pros and cons, seeing how, conference commissioners and journalists and coaches and how people have laid out different scenarios and the way that things would be implemented, my determination is that they should have a 12-team playoff with no automatic qualifier. That's where I'm going to stand on this issue. Why? Well, I've said many, many times in the past that I think that keeping as many teams invested and interested later into the season is great. Certainly applies to LSU, and I think it applies to really everyone. We just watched what Ole Miss did in baseball, and I'm not here to suggest a 64-team playoff where you stink for 3 months and then all of a sudden figure it out late. I think that's interesting, but I understand that there should be some value put on the regular season. And to those that say that a 12-team playoff would totally devalue the best regular season in sports, I would just disagree. And I'll tell you why. I looked at the SEC West. If you took the last 11 years, everyone in the SEC West would have made a playoff. To me, that's a positive. Look, I hate Ole Miss. I don't root for Arkansas ever. We know how I feel about Texas A&M. I want them to fail at every turn. But for the health of the sport and the involvement of fans, having your best team get a swing at the national championship at the end, to me, is a really good thing. And we've basically proven in this 2-team and 4-team playoff, we're locking you out at about 8 teams. And LSU, and right here, we're lucky enough to be one of those 8 a lot. Be one of those 4 once, be one of those 2, 3 other times. That's great for us. But you look back at the SEC West, Bama would be in it every year. Okay, whatever. This is a run we've never seen before. Auburn would have made it in 2010 with Cam. Obviously, they were undefeated. Auburn would have made it in 13. So they would have made the playoff a couple times. In 2014, the year that Mississippi State climbed to number 1 in the rankings, they went to Tuscaloosa and got beat. And because of that, they weren't going to get to Atlanta, and they didn't get a chance at the college football playoff. They would have made it if it were a 12-team playoff. They finished number 7 in the country after the regular season. They would have gotten in. I hate Mississippi State. Their cowbells are annoying. I don't like Starkville on football weekends. I don't like Mississippi State. But them getting into a playoff, I think, is good for the sport. And they would have, even though they lost the Egg Bowl that year. Speaking of the Egg Bowl that year in 2014, Ole Miss won it. That propelled them from 19 to 9. They would have gotten in based on winning that game against their rival. Don't tell me that the entire regular season is devalued if you take it away from 4 teams. You're telling me that Egg Bowl is devalued? It's valued more if I put it in a 12-team playoff, because now Ole Miss is playing to get in. Mississippi State's playing to make sure their heated rival doesn't get in. They weren't going to get to Atlanta. That game really didn't matter in 2014 because Mississippi State had already lost to Alabama. They weren't getting to Atlanta. They weren't going to get in to the college football player for the BCS championship. We've created more drama in that game. Arkansas in 2011 would have gotten in. Instead, they're going to the Sugar Bowl. Texas A&M would have made it with Johnny Manziel in 2012. They would have made it in 2020. They didn't. The integrity of the regular season is still there. I mean, think about the Iron Bowl last year. Bama loses that game. I mean, in this format that I'm going towards, yeah, they still get in the playoff at 10-2, but they may not get a bye because those top 4 teams would get a bye. So while you have the drama of trying to get in on the back end of 12, of a 12-team playoff, you're also, if you're at the top and you're going to make it anyway, you're battling for a bye with teams that are trying to get in the top 4. I think that adds more value to the regular season. I've been kind of wishy-washy on this for a while. Just tell me the rules, LSU will play by them, and we'll probably be okay. 2-team BCS, okay, we can make it in. We did that 3 times. 4-team playoff, yeah, we got to go beat Bama. We can get into that. That's fine. 8-team playoff, yeah, LSU can get in it. 12-team playoff, LSU can do that. Get into that. 16 teams, LSU can get it. So from an LSU perspective, it's more of a just show me the rules. But for an overall health of college football, this to me makes the most sense as I go back and look over the last decade and realize that everybody's got a real chance. And they're probably going to get in the playoff and get beat. But I just think it's a healthier thing. And I think I've been pretty clear in laying out that I now no longer subscribe to the theory that if you grow this playoff from 2 to 4 to 12, that you've totally ruined September through November and into December. I don't subscribe to it. I think you enhance it. You better win. And sometimes towards the end of the season, you're fighting for a bye. Sometimes you're fighting to get into the playoffs. Sometimes you're making sure your rival doesn't get into the playoff. I'd take a ton of pride, a ton of joy if LSU had a down year and went 8-4 and wasn't in contention for the top 12, but Texas A&M was, and we played them the last game of the season and beat them and made sure they couldn't get in the playoff. That would bring me great joy. I'm curious what people think. We're going to take it to the poll, Citizens Bank poll question of the day. Best number of teams in a college football playoff. We'll do 2, 4, 8, and 12. 16 gets a little hairy there. I like the 12 because I've got 4 byes at the top. Then I've got 5 through 12 playing, and then we invite the top 4 in that have gotten a bye and have gotten that advantage. We see it in the NFL. Looks good to me. You can see it in college football. Invite more teams to the table. Invite Minnesota in when they have a great year. I realize Michigan State got into the playoff. They got crushed. That's all right. And there are a lot of other logistics about, do we play them at home? Do we play at neutral sites? Is it too many games? We cut the regular season down a little bit. And that's all stuff that I'm willing to have discussions on here and there, and I get all that. But in terms of just the nuts and bolts of this thing, the fact that the entire SEC West would have gotten into a 12-team playoff over the last 12 years, and that it does create intrigue late in the season where people insinuate that it doesn't, tells me that this is the right thing. I'll scroll through the Bayou Ford chat on YouTube, kind of get some thoughts on that, and see kind of where you stand on it. I've decided it's just kind of an unorthodox way to start the show. I understand that. Training camps fired all over the place. We got Major League Draft stuff, LSU football, watch list season, all that jazz. And there's plenty to talk about when we got, another hour and 50 minutes to get to it. But that's just something that I started kicking around, started writing some stuff on a notepad today, and went, this makes the most sense. I'm going to decide that this is where I'm going to stand. And so this is the expansion is going to happen. Every single commissioner that has talked this week and last week has basically hinted the fact that we're growing, we're moving. This is going to happen. Just a matter of what's the best way to do it. And I think I found it. So we'll take your thoughts in the Bayou Ford chat over there on YouTube. Brady Neal, big-time signee, a catcher in this LSU signing class, will be with us in 20 minutes at 12:30. Got some Julio Jones notes, LSU football at the top of the second hour, Saints update at 1:30. Lots to get to, but when we come back, LSU's Director of Athletic Development, guy who's in charge of the strength and conditioning program over there for LSU football, and the guy who's had this football team all summer, Jake Flint's going to join us next. It's Hunt and Hill.
Hunt Palmer and Jeremy Hill. It's Hunt and Hill.
Bayou Ford. Check out the inventory at BayouFord.com. Car buying game has changed. No longer is it spend 4 hours on a Saturday walking the entire lot, signing your life away on paperwork. It's different. We live in an Amazon world, and that's how Bayou Ford is operating over there on their website, BayouFord.com. You can check out the entire inventory at the tip of your fingers right there on the website. They don't have exactly what you want. They can customize a vehicle for you. 75% of car buyers from Bayou Ford are customizing their vehicle. It's one of the biggest expenses that we have in our lives is our vehicle. Make sure it's right. You don't have to settle just because something is on the lot and you just need it right there. Bayou Ford can turn around a customized vehicle for you in 60 to 90 days, and you don't have to drive to the dealership when it's ready. They'll tell you it's ready, and they'll have a driver. They've got 6 of them on staff. Drive it right to your house. That's as easy as it can possibly be. They've also got a great buy-back program. They will buy your vehicle if you're not happy with what you're currently driving. Check out Bayou Ford, and they will help you with that as well. Every new purchase at Bayou Ford, a 1,000,000-mile powertrain warranty. For the life of that vehicle, you will have it under that warranty. Tell Ben Gagne and the crew that we sent you here at Hunt and Hill. Check out the inventory at BayouFord.com. Bayou Ford, we're going to do right by you.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Skona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. The Saints Open Training Camp. We'll have a camp report, overrated, underrated, and it's a Whiskey Wednesday. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt and Hill on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Out on the open field here on a Wednesday, Brady Neal, LSU catcher signee, will be with us in about 15 minutes. But right now, it is our pleasure to welcome via the phone lines LSU's new Director of Athletic Development. His name is Jake Flint. He joins us on the phone line. Jake, thanks so much for your time. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Appreciate you for letting me on and chatting up with whatever you guys need.
Yeah, it is our pleasure for sure. I know that the summer season kind of just wrapped up within the last week. How would you characterize your first summer in charge of this football program?
Probably just a lot hotter than it's been the last.
I was going to ask you about
16
that.
years of my career. No, good. You know, we made some strides. It'll be interesting to see once we put the pads on, see how things transfer over. But we've had a good summer. Made a lot of improvements across the board physically and just as a team and leadership wise and all around. You know, we got some work to do, but that's why we're here. And I'm excited to keep going.
A lot of times when you take a new job with a new team, a new school, you're kind of the new guy and you have to kind of try to catch up. We know how limited LSU's roster was in the bowl game back in January. Did it kind of feel like everybody was the new guy this summer?
Maybe a little bit. And I was fortunate. I actually came in December 7th,
okay.
And with Coach Kelly, obviously he didn't coach the bowl game, but I was able to. I literally started coaching that week. You know, so I kind of took over for through the bowl game, the preparation for the bowl game into the off season, if you will. So it was good to see kind of where things were at. You kind of got a lay of the land, and kind of the guys got to know me a little bit. The guys that were still here from that last season. But yeah, I mean, we're listen, I'm about relationships. I really am, and that's how Coach Kelly is too. And it's ever evolving. But there's guys that I know that have been here since December, and then there's guys that have been here for a few weeks, and we're all pushing in the same direction. So we're all going.
A lot was made when LSU opened this new facility a couple of years ago. What were your impressions of the facility, the weight room overall, based on where you've been?
The weight room?
Yeah.
So I love the facility. Actually, I'm very big into. I'm basic, right? I'm a basic guy, but very detailed and intricate as far as how I train. I guess is the best way to put it. Individualized and all those things. But the weight room's open, and it's an open field. I can do a lot of work. I can take the whole team if I want. I got a whole team training session coming up in the first week of camp, and I can fit the whole team. You know, a lot of times we'll do offense, defense split. And there's enough room. That's the biggest thing. I just want room to train. And the efficiency of how it leads into the indoor, leads into, the open fields outside, there's nothing else you could ask for, And I've tried to get outside as much as I could this year in the summer. I'm a big fan of the elements and just getting exposure to them. And as much as we've ran and trained and had our training sessions, I've tried to get outside, and it's just an easy, transfer from going outside to inside to the training or vice versa. So it's a very efficiently built room.
Chatting with Jake Flint, LSU Director of Athletic Development over there for the football program. Brian Kelly has talked a couple of times in interviews about how integral GPS is and how much y'all can track these guys when they're out there working out, whether running around, whatever it is. What's the role that GPS plays, and how does that even work?
Yeah, so we started with GPS back in 2014 at the last place at Notre Dame, and just kind of started to figure out what it was about, and we built it into, that was kind of one of my main roles at Notre Dame was to run, the GPS system and the reporting and individualized training from a, movement standpoint. And, I was able and fortunate enough to, my vision of a staff and of athletic development is to include a sports science side of it, if you will. And so Scott Kuhn, my manager of applied sports science, and his main assistant, Jordan Pinella, kind of lead that up with, the distribution, reporting, and, the analytics of everything. But essentially we can look at, and I've had so that many years of data of what we've done at Notre Dame, what we've done in the games and such. There's obviously studies and research backing some of this movement efficacy, and just seeing what a game provides for each position. So whether you're a receiver, an O lineman, a DB, it's going to be a different trace than each other. So you got to know what the demands of each position are for the game, and then you reverse engineer it, and then you train for it. You know what I mean? You aren't just out there mindlessly running to run, and doing, endless work just to work. You kind of have an idea of where you want to get to. And then as we get into the season, I meet with Coach Kelly on a daily basis and just make sure we know where we're at, from a physical standpoint and from a workload standpoint. So we know if we're going too hard, not hard enough on individuals, as a team, and just we know where we've been and what's been successful for us as far as the model that Coach Kelly's built. So it just keeps us on track, to be able to see exactly, no guessing games.
Another thing that kind of caught my ear last week that Brian Kelly was talking about was saying that he looked at the tape of the UCLA game, which was LSU's first game last year, and he thought he saw a tired football team. How do you prevent that for the opener against Florida State?
Yeah, so I just know I can lean on the experience with Coach Kelly and what we've done in the past, and that's just, keep a beat on the team and where we're at on any given day and any given week, and know that where we're going, we know where it's at. You know what I mean? We know by numbers. We don't just guess, and know that this is where the team's at. This is what they can handle. You know what I mean? And we can be flexible about it. That's the best thing about Coach Kelly is he's able to, and he is able and knowledgeable enough to, and from his experience to know when to push, when to pull. So he's confident enough that his programming and his practice planning and modeling is going to prevent hopefully such a thing. And we can train as hard as we need to, not as hard as we can every day, but as hard as we need to, you know what I mean? And the weather's a factor down here that we've never experienced, and multiple variables go into it. But it's a holistic, approach. So it's myself, it's Coach Kelly, it's the position coaches, it's Bo Lowry, it's the equipment staff, it's the nutrition staff, Dr. Frakes. It's everybody just pushing in the same direction to make sure that we're, optimally trained, but also optimally recovered every day.
I'm fascinated at how the moving parts of a football program work, and this may be an elementary question. I apologize if it is, but how much of your individual work with X player is, okay, this is what he should look like in my opinion, or this is what Coach Denbrock says he needs his tight end or running back to look like? I mean, do you have input from the coordinators on this is what I'm going to ask him to do, this is what he needs to look like?
Oh yeah. That's an everyday, communication and just, at the beginning of their off season, I always sit down with all of them and say, hey, okay, well, this is where they're at, or this is their body weight, right? This is their body weight right now. Where are you thinking? And then we kind of have a collective, conversation between the position coach, the coordinator, the player himself, and see where they feel comfortable at, and then we tell them where they need to be at. Ultimately, it's our experience and as position coaches, as my staff, me and my staff, and Coach Kelly, to know where these guys need to be, but also, once again, we try not to guess. So with Dr. Frakes too, with as far as body weight goes, he can know exactly what the body can handle, their particular individual can handle. But also we watch film, as a strength staff, we watch game film, we watch practice film, and know the demands of the movements of each position, and then we can talk with the position coaches and say, okay, look, this is what we can provide in the summer, or this is what we've done with them, and kind of get them as close as they need to be for each position going into practice, going into the games. So it's everybody on the same page, hopefully talking at all times. It can be flexible, but we're just pushing in the same direction. That's the biggest thing.
A lot's made of culture change, and not that you were here last season or the year before that when things were really wacky in 2020, but I'm curious as to what you have gleaned from this team over the last, I guess you've been here 8 months now, in terms of culture, attitude. Obviously, things haven't gone the way most people expected in Baton Rouge over the last 2 years.
Yeah, all I know is this: the players, the guys, is they want to do what's right, and they want to be guided and held accountable and do the right thing day in and day out. And then obviously they know how it translates to the field. It's it's a testament of time that college kids are college kids, and they, continuously need to be educated and guided and shown what leadership is about. But they want to do it. They want to do it. And we're progressing, and we're getting there. And we have a lot of players that are happy with where they're at, but know that there's still a lot of work to do. You know what I mean? And we are in the same boat. We love where the guys are going. But we know we got work to do, and it's never gonna end. And that's why we're here.
Chatting with Jake Flint, LSU Director of Athletic Development. A couple more about you personally, Jake. I see that you were a member of USA weightlifting on a national level. How close are you to that shape these days?
Oh, these days?
Yeah.
No. I'm a father of 6, and I have a wife at home. So I got that going for me more than anything. It was good. So after I got done practicing for Coach Kelly. I say that because I was a walk-on. That's a joke I got. I always tell the recruits. But so I played for Coach Kelly at Central Michigan University and got into coaching. And obviously I'm a meathead. I fell in love with the weight room, and weightlifting was a passion of mine. So being able to compete in something was just something I fell into before I had kids. And it was I did compete until early 30s. So a few years ago, not too long ago, I was still competing a little bit. But there's no need for that as much anymore. But every once in a while, you got to be able to jump in and show the guys that you can still hang if you need to.
You mentioned that you've got 5 daughters and a son. My mom is one of 4 girls. There were no boys in that family, but I've seen the 4 of them interact over the last 35 years. What is day-to-day like for your son in a house with 5 sisters?
I don't know if he knows. It's just, I'll just say this. The more kids that we had, it just got louder. And my wife's a saint. My wife's an absolute beast. And I couldn't do anything without her. So it's great to have her at home. She's a teacher, and she does everything. But he just goes along. And I'm lucky. My daughters are raised well, and they know, right from wrong, whether they always choose that or not. I don't know, but he's his own guy. I mean, not having a boy before and then finally having a son at the end, it is different. People always said, boys are different, and I was always like, well, my girls still jump off the back of the couch, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff too. But he does live a little dangerously, let's say.
We're getting close to football time here in Baton Rouge. Everybody's really, really excited. We appreciate so much your time, and we'll see you out there on the practice field.
No doubt. Appreciate you guys.
That is Jake Flint, LSU Director of Athletic Development, in charge of the strength and conditioning program over there for LSU football. Been with Brian Kelly for a very long time, and now is the head man over there at LSU. So very much looking forward to chatting with him a little bit more as the season goes on. So appreciate him for giving us a little bit of time today. We'll take a time out, come back. Brady Neal, big-time LSU catcher signees on campus. He was drafted. We'll ask him about all that kind of stuff next on Hunt and Hill.
Hold down the middle of the day. This is Hunt and Hill. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
Do more of what you were born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
And this year, 2022, it's time to finally treat yourself. Bring your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service. You want the latest and greatest marine technology? You want to go to the place that has not one, but two NMEA-certified techs. Family-owned and operated by the Sherman family for 30 years, front-to-back is the answer in Baton Rouge for all of your custom boat needs. So head to fronttobackboatservice.com or find them on Facebook, Front to Back Boat Service.
Vizzy, the first hard seltzer with antioxidant vitamin C. It just hits different. Vizzy, step up your seltzer game.
Charles Hannegriff, join us for the next edition of Jimmy Ott's Game Time, presented by Bet Rivers, with Snow's Seafood and Steak in Gonzales. Andy Isco, Wes Reynolds, Randy McKay, and Jimmy Ott all join us. Jimmy Ott's Game Time, 6 p.m. weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt and Hill, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Thanks so much to Jake Flint for jumping aboard. We head back out to the phone lines now. Chat with Brady Neal, LSU signee, guy who's enrolled here, also a 17th round selection of the Milwaukee Brewers. He joins us on the phone line now. Brady, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing very well. I'm curious, you've been here in Baton Rouge now for a couple of weeks, going to class. What's the adjustment to college life been like?
I was pretty lucky to go to a boarding school in high school, so it's all kind of pretty similar. Obviously, this campus is a lot bigger, and we have some things here that I didn't have, but it's kind of like a second home for me. I love it a lot. So.
Well, you mentioned going to boarding school. You went to IMG, which it feels like, depending on the sport, like 25% of the signees are from IMG Academy. It feels like. What is going to school at IMG like?
It's a different game. It's the best players in the country come there to play each other every day, and then we turn around and play the best players like on all the other teams. You know, like the Florida high school baseball is a different level, in my opinion. It's just guys throwing serious velo that I've seen since my sophomore year. So, and there's just a lot of development comes out of it with the great coaches and all the other great like strength coaches and nutritionists too. So.
You played with Tommy White, who has decided to play his last 2 seasons of college baseball here in Baton Rouge after being the National Freshman of the Year up at NC State. What kind of hitter was he in high school, and what do you expect from him in Baton Rouge next year?
He's everything you saw on TV last year. He's crazy at the plate. If you throw it near the zone, he's going to hit it and hit it a long way. He works really hard at it. It doesn't just show up on TV. He puts in a lot of work behind the scenes to put that show on Friday night.
So he was kind of rumored to be headed back towards Florida State, Florida, something like that, and then all of a sudden decided to come to LSU. Did you have any discussions with him when he was trying to make that decision?
When he decommitted, I just shot him a text like, hey, like it'd be awesome to play with you again. But I didn't when I was going through the recruiting process, I didn't want anybody to kind of push me one way or the other. So I obviously would love him to have him here, and we got him. But I didn't want to push him one way or the other. I wanted it to be his decision, and he picked the best one.
You decided to reclassify when you were in high school to get to college / the pros a little bit earlier. What went into that decision?
I was just ready to play better competition at a young age. The 23 class is obviously insane, but I just wanted to try to take that next step and see if I have what it takes to compete against the 22s, and I did. So it was the best thing for me.
We're chatting with Brady Neal, LSU catching signee, here on Hunt and Hill. When you committed to LSU, Nolan Cain was the recruiting coordinator. I know you had a good relationship with him. Paul Maneri was the head coach, and obviously there was a transition last year. What was that like when the guys that you had known for a couple of years moved on and a new staff came in?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. They're all baseball guys, and it's just like when you get put on a new team, bunch of baseball players, everybody just kind of gets along, and you all have the same goal in mind, win a national championship. And so that's what we're working hard to do here when we get back to the fall.
I'm curious what your draft experience was like. That's something you had to have looked forward to for a very, very long time. There's a lot that goes into it between you and your parents and advisors / agents. I'm certainly not going to ask you like what kind of number did you set, but like what goes into that discussion? I mean, do you have a say? Is it just mom and dad? Does the advisor come in and say, hey, this is what we need to do? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, my parents, they wouldn't have had me go to a boarding school when I was 15 years old if they didn't know I had a good head on my shoulders. So it's up to me. I set a number that I think I was worth, or I thought I was worth, and it was first round money, and I didn't get it. So, I mean, there's no better place it was a 50-50. I love LSU. Pros is obviously the pros, but like I'm not going to sell myself short to give up an opportunity at the best college baseball program in the country.
Chatting with Brady Neal here on Hunt and Hill. So what was last week like when the first round went through and the second round went through, and it was a 3-day process? What was that like for you?
Yeah, after the first day, I was all on board with the LSU. Like, talked to Coach Jay, and he was great in that process too, just helping us out, me and my family. But after that first day, it was LSU all the way.
And I know you were selected by the Milwaukee Brewers. You were taken with the 522nd pick in the 17th round. Did you have any discussions before they made that pick? Have you spoken to them since then?
To be completely honest, I was at the golf store looking at clubs. So my advisor just called me, and I was looking at some wedges, and like, oh, nice. But I don't think they're going to have enough money to pay me at that spot. So.
All right, well, we got to talk golf then. Are you're a left-handed hitter? Are you a left-handed golfer?
Oh, yeah.
What's the handicap?
I mean, I probably shoot like 80s. I got to putt. I can't. Putting's not my thing. It takes a little more practice than I put into it. So.
I got you. I want to get back to the draft a little bit because obviously this class that you were a part of was just as star-studded as I've ever seen following LSU recruiting for the last 15 to 20 years. What was it like being a part of that as guys continue to commit, and now that everybody can be together via group text message and stuff? And what were the relationships that you built in your signing class?
Yeah, the whole travel ball circuit's really good for all this stuff. We all kind of know each other. We you get a feel for everybody's like character, attitude when you play a couple games with them over the summer in our classes. We're good on the field, and they're all good people. Like, we all get along. It's just like they're good guys. No like kids that are going to do anything bad or like talk trash about anybody. They're just all here to help each other out. So.
And were you all kind of in constant communication as the draft was going on? This guy saying, "Yeah, I'm hearing this. I'm going to LSU." Is that kind of a discussion that goes on via text message, or was everybody kind of doing their own thing?
That's more private. Like, we kind of know what to reveal and what to not, because you say one wrong thing and you know how it goes. The guys will jump all over it. But we just kind of kept that to ourselves. That's personal information. So, I mean, yeah.
The two guys that were drafted in the last 10 rounds were you and Jaden Newt. Have you spoken to Jaden at all?
Not about that.
Okay.
The drafting. I'm not going to have a say in his. That's his decision. That's a big life decision. I don't want to have a say in whatever he picks. So.
Yeah, I think there's an indication from those on the outside, like, oh, these guys are gossiping and talking. Like, they're just kids that have a big decision on your plate, but you just kind of go on your daily lives, I think, more often than not. So do you anticipate, in the next 5 days having any more discussions with Milwaukee, or if that happens, it does. If it doesn't, it just doesn't?
No, I'm an LSU Tiger. I haven't heard anything from them. They've probably talked to my agents, but I'm LSU all the way.
Well, that is good to hear. I'm sure a lot of people will be pumped up about it. I know you're in class. You got weightlifting. You all are working out a lot. So we appreciate you taking some time. We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
You bet. That is Brady Neal, LSU catcher signee, who says he is 100% an LSU Tiger, which is music to the ears of a lot of LSU baseball supporters and probably to Jay Johnson and his staff as well. Brady is a heck of a player. I didn't realize until today when I started doing some research, because I knew we were going to be talking to Brady, that he played with Tommy White at IMG. That's just not – I didn't care about Tommy White's high school because I'd never heard of him when he was in high school, and then he just explodes onto the scene at NC State and then shows up here in Baton Rouge. But obviously Brady played with him. He was doing an interview back a few months ago with MLB Network, and they were asking him. He's like, "Yeah, I was in the second BP group as a high school player because we had all these studs on my team that were awesome hitters." And he started listening. He goes, "Tommy White." And I was, "Tommy White?" Went and looked it up. It's like, yeah. So it looks like that Brady did a little bit of recruiting there, not much. Just shot him a text, said, "Hey, why don't you come on to Baton Rouge?" And obviously, the way that the draft works out, you never know until the signing deadline is over. There's a lot of different ways that teams can find some money, and it sounds like the Brewers are very much pursuing Jaden Newt potentially. I think that there's a potential that they could try to come after Brady Neal at the end once they've made their signings in the top 10 rounds and understand how their money is going to work. And nothing's official until August 1 when that deadline passes. But you heard it from Brady Neal right there. He said he's an LSU Tiger. That sounds really, really good to those of us around here. Also, nothing's final until it goes. We appreciate Brady for jumping aboard. He wasn't going to do any interviews before the draft process started, but now that draft process has completed, he said he was going to jump aboard, so we enjoyed chatting with him. A lot of really good stuff here in hour number one. We spoke with Brady Neal, obviously, right there, and Jake Flint, LSU Director of Athletic Development, was with us at 12:15. If you missed either one of those interviews, just jumping in the car, check them out on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. You can also catch them on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, on YouTube. They are all right there, and we appreciate those two guys for jumping aboard. No more interviews the rest of today. Still got a lot to talk about. LSU unit rankings based on Athlon and Lindy's. We're going to get to some of that and some of the position groups that those magazines have highlighted. There is some interesting Vegas money being thrown around that we're going to talk about in the second hour. Also, of course, going to have a black and gold update on the Saints at 1:30. I wanted to kind of let as much of the dust settle over there as I possibly could before starting to talk about it, because there have been a lot of interviews, a lot of video coming out, a lot of people reporting on what they saw at practice this morning. So I wanted to let a lot of that get finalized before we went with it. So I put that at the back end of the show at 1:30. But we will get to it, I promise you, as the black and gold have started training camp over there in Metairie. When we come back, some NFL storylines that have gotten my attention as of the last 48 hours. That's next on Hunt and Hill.
1045 ESPN Baton Rouge with Hunt and Hill.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal, and this month they are celebrating and elevating another champion of Louisiana. It is Young Entrepreneurs Academy. Young Entrepreneurs Academy is just doing incredible work in the development of young high schoolers in our great state, and they are fostering an environment that allows them to move forward and start their own businesses. They have launched more than 60 startups through Young Entrepreneurs Academy. Small businesses are the lifeblood of our state. 99.5% of the total businesses in our state are small businesses started right here. And Young Entrepreneurs Academy is giving young people the tools to go out and do that. And they're a champion of Louisiana for that very reason. LWCC celebrating a different champion each and every month here on Hunt and Hill. You know, a nonprofit or a person or an entity of some kind that is doing awesome work in our state, go ahead and go to lwcc.com/Louisiana Loyal and nominate a champion so that we can tell their story here on Hunt and Hill. I'm serious when I say that. We want to tell the stories of these great people and great businesses in our state, and LWCC is allowing us to do that each and every day because LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
This week on DropBiscuit.com or wherever you listen to podcasts is our new series, Pops, the Louis Armstrong story. Pops is brought to you by New Orleans & Company. Check out neworleans.com and come visit New Orleans.
At Rejuvame, we specialize in medically monitored hormone replacement therapy.
giving you the energy you need for all life's challenges. We can help get your day started. 1-2, 1-2.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
My own people call me an Uncle Tom. I play music. Been wined and dined by royalty. Trying to bring people together. All people. But regardless of all that kind of stuff, I'm still Louis Armstrong.
Here's the man you're waiting for, the king of jazz, Louis Satchmo Armstrong.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Visit Acura of Baton Rouge for attractive offers on the MDX.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Call Mr. Electric today for electrical repairs, upgrades, and installations.
A Wednesday edition of Early Line. Training camps have opened across the NFL, and we look ahead to the upcoming season. And we make some fresh picks as part of our daily spread presented by Suspense Games. Join us 2 to 3 p.m. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt and Hill on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Thanks to Brady Neal and Jake Flint for jumping aboard here in hour number one. To close out hour one, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the NFL storylines that have kind of developed over the last couple of days as training camps begin to fire up, and we're full steam ahead on the NFL front. Yesterday, we found out that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had signed Julio Jones to be a wide receiver on their team. It looks like they're assembling the All-Madden team from like 2014, Brady and Julio Jones. This doesn't move the needle very much to me. This is a huge name. It feels like when the Saints signed Adrian Peterson. It's like, yeah, he's probably going to the Hall of Fame, or he is going to the Hall of Fame, but is he going to help this team? And Julio Jones just hasn't been a big help over the last 2 years. He led the NFL in receiving yards in 2018. He had over 1,600 yards. The next year, he had a really productive season in Atlanta, had 1,300 yards for the Falcons, had 6 touchdowns. But in 2020, in that COVID year, he played 9 games, caught 771 yards worth of balls. And then last year for Tennessee, was injured a little bit, played 10 games, and caught 434 yards worth of balls. So over the last 4 years, his production has dropped pretty dramatically over year. Now, there have been injuries that have played, but that's part of the deal here when you sign a guy who's going into his age 33 season. So, look, I think it's a huge name. It sounds really good. I don't necessarily think that Julio Jones is in a position to be a big piece to this equation in Tampa Bay. Of course, Tom's got other options. They've got some really good players on the outside. They're not asking Julio Jones to come in and be their number one wide receiver. I understand that. But as if you're a Saints supporter, this is not exactly having me shaking in my boots here. Marshawn Lattimore's done a really good job on him over the years. I'm not thinking right now that Julio Jones is going to be a major factor for Tampa. Is he a nice veteran piece in the locker room? Sure. Does he have the ability to catch some balls and help you a little bit? Sure. Is this adding some Pro Bowler that's a home run threat and a guy that's going to catch 1,200 yards worth of balls and 10 touchdowns? I just don't see it. That does not move the needle much for me. The other one that I thought was interesting. Look, I don't sit here and grind the NFL ticker day after day in the offseason, and I don't pretend to have a perfect hold on every situation, every organization, every QB competition. But I thought it was interesting that the 49ers just went to the podium yesterday and said, hey, here's the deal. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be the quarterback because Trey Lance is the quarterback of this team, and that's what it's going to be. And when you think about that, most teams go to camp and create some competition, and they want to have guys feel like they're fighting for their job, and I think that elevates performance level for everybody. And I think in this instance, it's less about that and more about just determining what the identity of the team is going to be. And last year, they had drafted Trey Lance, but they kind of felt like, yeah, Garoppolo probably gives us the best option. And this is an interesting quarterback situation because the thought is that the 49ers roster is good enough to get into the playoffs and make a push for sure. Certainly they made a huge push last year. This isn't like the Bears with Justin Fields. They're going to stink anyway. May as well send him out there and see what he's got. This ain't like the Jaguars who are going to go 3-14 again. Might as well let Trevor Lawrence play. Like, the 49ers don't have a roster where you, like, develop a quarterback. They have a roster where you go win games. Go try to win the Super Bowl. So for them to immediately go to Trey Lance here before they even put on shoulder pads, to me was a little bit surprising. And again, this may be the most obvious thing in the world to those who cover the 49ers or 49ers fans, or if you're just locked into the NFL 365. Maybe it was the most obvious thing that was going to happen. We certainly knew there was an opportunity for Jimmy Garoppolo to be moved before the draft or traded, or that kind of thing was an option. But this is a guy who damn near got you to the Super Bowl last year, and you're going with the other guy. And it's I just found it interesting. I'm not in position, as I just said, to tell you if it's right or wrong in terms of winning games, but it is undoubtedly a different call than it is for Jacksonville or for the Bears or some of these teams that have young quarterbacks that could theoretically go with someone else. No, like that's a sink or swim situation. Like, just go. You got Trey Lance here. He's expected to maybe win the division, go to win a Super Bowl. I thought it was fascinating to watch the 49ers turn the page like that, but that organization is just very well run. I mean, I've listened to Hester and Flynn, and some of these guys talk about bouncing organization to organization and the stark differences that you'll find. The 49ers have a great front office. They've done an awesome job of building a culture, building a winner, and they've been really, really good over the last 5 years. And we'll see what they figure out with Deebo Samuel, but them giving the keys to Trey Lance, I think, is a pretty big development, and to me, might lessen the strength of the NFC. I'm going to be on this over the next few weeks, and I just don't think the NFC is that great. I think the 49ers got worse when they put Trey Lance in there instead of Jimmy Garoppolo, but I guess time will certainly tell on that front. That'll do it for hour number one here. Catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. You can catch it all. We had a couple really fun conversations. Brady Neal, LSU catcher signee, was with us at 12:30, and Jake Flint, Director of Athletic Development over there for LSU football, was with us at 12:15. We opened talking about the playoffs. I think it ought to be 12 teams. I put my flag in the ground. We'll come back. A lot of stuff to get to in hour number two. It's Hunt and Hill.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on all new 2022 Ram Black Widow trucks in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
If home is where the heart is, a roof is a shield. That's why for over 25 years, South Louisiana always turns to Garcia Roofing and Sheet Metal. For more information, visit garciadidmyroof.com.
Hunt and Hill. Hunt Palmer, Jeremy Hill, holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, it's Hunt and Hill. Now on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hour number 2 here on a Wednesday, half the work week in the rear view mirror. I guess we can call it working towards the weekend now if you're in the second hour of Wednesday. That's what we prefer to look at it. In any event, hope your Wednesday is going well. Appreciate you spending a little bit of it with us here on ESPN Baton Rouge. However you may be accessing it, whether it's the app or YouTube or the internet, your radio. Appreciate you for hanging out. It's magazine season. Hadn't quite gotten to the college football practices just yet. We're about a week away from teams lacing it up. But as I'm scrolling through the magazine, and I'm always curious kind of what the thought is on LSU. And I'm looking at Athlon, and they do a national unit rankings every year. And they go through every position group, and they rank it 1 through 10. And I generally have a feeling as to what groups are going to be very highly thought of in Baton Rouge and what ones may not. And LSU is in the top 10 of 3 position groups. It's quarterbacks, running backs, wideouts, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, and DBs. And LSU that's 7. In 3 of them, LSU is in the top 10. And as I thought about it, I would have definitely gotten 2 of them right, but the third one I probably would have missed on. And so we'll get to that. I got LSU at number 10 in terms of wide receivers. I would buy into that. I think LSU's wide receiver room is going to be really, really good this year. I have almost no concerns. We got to see Kayshawn back and healthy. We know what he can be at the top. But Jack Besh was great last year. I think he's going to be great again this year. Just does such a good job working the middle of the field, working from the slot. He had a couple big plays down the field, but more of his work is done around the chains than flying down, blowing the top off of a defense. I think Malik Neighbors, I'm going to continue to beat this drum. I'm going to continue to say it until it's just proven wrong. I think he's got star written all over him. And I think some injuries hampered him last year. There were some flashes. It's a crowded room at times. It never quite happened the way that I thought that it would. But I think he's got the ability to be a really, really good wide receiver. Last year, Malik had 28 catches, 417 yards, and 4 scores. I think he can do much, much more than that this year. And then you go to the guys like Jeray Jenkins, who's a veteran, who you know what you're going to get from him. You go to Brian Thomas, Chris Hilton. I mean, there are a lot of people that, if you talk to those that have been around in the spring and in the summer, say that Brian Thomas has got a chance to be awesome this year. Wouldn't surprise me at all. He's got every tool imaginable that you would need. So, are there 9 better wide receiver rooms than LSU's? I don't know. Virginia's ranked 8th in this thing. I can't tell you one thing about Virginia's wide receiver room, other than it's probably not as talented as LSU's. But we'll see what the production says. But I would have gotten wide receiver. I think that's one of the strongest units on the team. If you would have told me 3 of these are going to be ranked in the top 10, I'd have given you wide receiver. I certainly would have given you defensive line. LSU is ranked as the 10th best defensive line by Athlon in this magazine, and this will be a huge talking point for the next month. If LSU's going to be quote-unquote good, and I realize that's a relative term, but if LSU's going to have a big season this year and win some big games, their defensive line is going to have to be awesome. And it can be. If you were listening to Matt's show yesterday, he talked about that Jaquelin Roy is on a star-studded trajectory, potentially. He kind of emerged late in his freshman year, was very solid last year, at times spectacular, and now in his 3rd year playing football and is going to be an every down player and a starter for this team. He's going to have to emerge as being really, really good. Mason Smith was a freshman last year, made some plays. He's got to dominate at times this year, and he's got every ability to do that, and we know that. And it's a 5-star kid who's a mountain of a human that is now a year into his college football. He's got to be awesome. You feel like LSU is going to be strong on the edges with B.J. Ojulari and Ali Gay. Those guys are big pieces to this, and the depth is there as well. I mean, Mekhi Wingo was a freshman all-league player at Missouri last year. He's going to be on the inside, probably in the second group. Jacobian Guillory, 4-star recruit, big guy. Going to have to be a big-time helper in the middle of that defensive line. What does Quincy Wiggins give you? Freakish athleticism, size that looks the part, and it's not one of those situations where you're asking him to come in and be the pass rusher. Now, Ali Gay and B.J. Ojulari kind of got you covered there. We need you to give us a few snaps a game in some spots that we think you can excel in. One of the worst things that you can have happen to a player is a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman going in there too early and just physically not being ready. And sometimes there are programs that you have to ask that of guys because you're thin on depth, whether it's injuries, failed recruiting, you just don't have anybody better. That shouldn't be the case at LSU, and it's not on the defensive line this year. That front has got a chance to be really, really special. And that's what you got to have. So those 2 I would have gotten. Those 2, if you told me 3 position groups were in the top 10, those two I would have gotten. I wouldn't have had linebacker in that discussion. And as you look through this magazine, Athlon does have LSU's linebacker room as one of the tops in the country at number 9. Now, I think they're probably using B.J. Ojulari as a linebacker here because he's listed that way when you go to LSU's team page, and I wouldn't necessarily call him a linebacker. A lot of football has gone somewhat positionless, just like basketball in a way. You got, is it the buck linebacker or the Sam linebacker or the jack position, or what's this safety doing? Is he playing in the box? Or that's a little bit over my head. And maybe they want to classify B.J. Ojulari as a linebacker, and that's fine and dandy. Micah Baskerville comes back, and it's time for Micah to be the lead dog in the middle of the defense. And he's been a pretty productive player for his couple years. I thought the COVID team, that's what I'm going to call it, the COVID team, he was a shot of life for that team. They couldn't stop anybody, and they finally put him in there, and he played a little bit better, made a bunch of tackles. And so, I think he's got a chance. The thought is that Greg Penn is going to be a guy that helps this team. That's a guy that you've heard a lot of. And then there's a lot of buzz around Mike Jones. Certainly we saw him last week, and he was a big name. I think less about what he had accomplished on the field and more about where he was coming from. Oh, he's Clemson? He was at Clemson? He started for Clemson? This guy's going to be awesome. And he's really athletic, and he did make some plays last year, but they found out pretty quickly based on reps and looking at practice and then seeing what you saw early in the season, like he didn't play that much. And that had to be a product of what they saw on the practice field. He just wasn't ready to be that guy. So he decided to come back, even though there was some draft buzz around him because he's a linebacker that can run. In the NFL, they love linebackers that can run. And you thought he may move on and try to start that pro career, but he's going to come back and try to play on the inside. And I'm all for it. See if he can get it done. And then probably the question that is the most enticing to Joe LSU fan, signing day Steve. I've never used that term before. I just came up with it. Signing day Steve. Does that work? Whatever. Harold Perkins. How quickly does Harold Perkins enter this fold? Because if you've got a group that's Baskerville with his age and experience and the production he's had, Mike Jones with his tantalizing skill set because he can run so well, and then Perkins, who's the best athlete of the lot, all of a sudden I start to get it. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, especially if you're going to group Ojulari in there. He's going to be among the SEC sack leaders, we hope. It starts to make a little bit more sense. I mean, you go through the position groups, and they're not going to put quarterback up there in the top 10, and running back, they don't really have anybody that's proven. Emory's missed a year. Kane coming back from injury. Is he ready to go? You lose Kiner. Offensive line, now you're going to get transfers from all over the place. You're starting a freshman at left tackle. Like, that's not one that's going to pop. Maybe secondary because you've got the Big 12, all Big 12 player, and bringing in a couple guys who started for Arkansas. You got some depth. And Jay Ward's back. And, you look at Sage Ryan. He was a 5-star, and I could maybe see where they would put LSU's secondary in the top 10, but then you start to think about maybe linebacker does make sense. I don't know where I would put linebacker on this team if I was ranking the positions just on this team, but I think that's top 10 in the country, and certainly that would be good. But by this measure, LSU's got a top 10 defensive line and a top 10 linebacking group, and then a lot of experience in the secondary. So if you're just reading the magazine, you think, well, that'd be a pretty good defense. We'll see. Last year's defense is just so hard to evaluate. I'm going to keep going back to this quote maybe forever. Because how am I supposed to evaluate a defense last year when LSU's head coach took to the podium on a Monday and told him that Lane Kiffin said, coach, y'all are running the same thing on every play? Maybe the most remarkable quote I've ever heard in an LSU football press conference. Maybe. I've been in a lot of them, heard a lot of them. Les had plenty. But maybe the most remarkable thing I've ever heard. So how in the world am I supposed to analyze what went on last year if you're telling me that they were running the same thing every time? And then they stopped after that, and they played really well against Bama. and played well enough to beat Texas A&M. But man, it's hard to evaluate a defense when you got a quote like that coming after the Ole Miss game. So I found it interesting as I'm combing through this magazine and I'm looking at unit rankings, and you realize that Bama and Ohio State but what do they think of LSU? Top 10 D-line, top 10 linebacking group, top 10 wide receiver group. I get D-line, I get receiver. I'll take it at linebacker. We'll see what these guys can produce. Speaking of football, we're going to get to the Saints here in about 20 minutes, and we'll get to Brian Kelly's but some quotes that he had at the Rotary Cup a little bit later. But there's been some money floating around Vegas that I may not have expected. I read about it on ESPN today. I'll tell you about it next on Hunt and Hill.
Hunt Palmer and Jeremy Hill. It's Hunt and Hill.
Reliable Roofing and Construction. You can find them at reliableroofingbr.com or on Instagram, Reliable Roofing LLC. They are a residential roofing company based right here in Baton Rouge. They are family run, owned, and operated. Been in business since 2008. Lionel and Jared Hayes are from here. Home is here. They're here to serve this Baton Rouge community, and they're doing so with their roofing work. If they come out and perform a roofing job on your house, 5-year labor guarantee on every job. You're also guaranteed to see Lionel Hayes there because he visits every site that they work on because it means that much to him. When you get a roof put on your house, you deserve great options with shingles. They've got it. You deserve the highest quality shingle. They got it. And you deserve that 5-year labor guarantee. If you want to see the pictures before and after, go to reliableroofingbr.com and check them out. They're very, very proud of their work, as they should be, because it is awesome. It is storm season. Make sure your roof is in great shape. You've got to have that protection on your home. Reliable Roofing will help you out with it. Check them out at reliableroofingbr.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Kids have staked out their place at Ochsner Medical Complex The Grove, where more than 30 pediatricians and pediatric specialists are all conveniently located under one roof, so you can spend less time driving and more time keeping your kids well. Kids! It's no wonder kids call dibs at The Grove. Ochsner Health Center for Children.
My own people call me an Uncle Tom. I play music. Been wined and dined by royalty. Trying to bring people together. All people. But regardless of all that kind of stuff, I'm still Louis Armstrong.
Here's the man you're waiting for, the king of jazz, Louis Armstrong.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. The Saints Open Training Camp. We'll have a camp report, overrated, underrated, and it's a Whiskey Wednesday. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt and Hill, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving on here on a Wednesday, talking some LSU football. We'll talk some Saints a little bit later as well, as they were on the practice field today for the first time. We'll go down to Metairie tomorrow and get an update from Saints camp, but a lot of positive reviews coming out of Saints practice today. We'll talk about that in the next segment. Some people are better, some people are not. That's okay. I don't bet very much, but I'm fascinated by some of the aspects of it. And it's just fun to follow money and follow what happens in Vegas. And I saw a headline today that caught my eye, and it surprised me a little bit. And it was over on ESPN.com, and they were talking about big money plays and where the public money is going on college football. And they talked about two schools that are moving a surprising amount of money. And it's easy to determine the reasons why, but I still think it's interesting. And the first is USC. And that's obvious because you lose Clay Helton, and then obviously you hire Lincoln Riley. He brings Caleb Williams. He might have the best quarterback in the country, and that's going to change things significantly. And so Vegas had to pivot big time on futures on them. And the thought from Vegas is they may have overcorrected. The quote is from Matt Metcalf, who's from Circa Sportsbook, and he sees opening college football lines. He says that when USC came on, that they probably overcorrected. They went down as low as 16-1 to win the national championship. The thought was going to be a hugely public team, and the Pac-12 hasn't had really any elite teams that they're scared of. And so you've got a public team in a weak conference with a flashy hire and a big-name coach. Vegas has got to protect themselves, and they got to jack those odds down, because if everybody starts dumping money on long odds, and this does actually work as quickly as some people think it may, Vegas is going to lose, and they don't make a habit of doing that very often. And so USC makes a lot of sense. They've now kind of settled in at about 25-1 to win the national championship. The other team, though, that has been very popular has been your Fighting Tigers of LSU. Quote here in the piece says, LSU has been a very popular team in the national title futures, mostly because you get the chance to bet another high-profile new hire, Brian Kelly, moving to a historically elite program, but it's at a much higher price than USC. LSU's gotten a significant amount of money thrown at them in the 70 to 90-1 range, which has caused Vegas to drop it down to about 55-1, where there's still been a little bit of action on it. That interested me, that teams kind of see you don't get an opportunity all that often to get LSU at 70-1. That's just not something you see in August very much. LSU, when they have been really good the previous year, they return a quarterback, usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 15-1, depending on the year. When I was up in Vegas, it depressed me greatly. This was like 4, 5, 6 years ago. I looked up at the board and saw Bama at 2-1. 2-1. How depressing is that? But again, LSU's usually going to be somewhere in the 8 to 20-1, depending on what has happened in the previous year. You just don't get, in a sport that has haves and have-nots, and we've made a big deal about that, in a sport that has very few teams that can compete at the top of this thing, for you to get one of those programs who has historically done this over the last 20 years at 70-1, 90-1, yeah, that's worth taking a flyer on, I guess. So it makes sense, but it surprised me a little bit, being that expectations have been pretty low. This was the other part, though, from a Vegas perspective to me, that was very, very eye-catching. Said LSU, their raw number this year for wins on the season, again, the raw number for this sports book is 5.5. 5.5. And it goes on to say, but we use 6.5, knowing the public would most likely want to bet this team over a low number. Again, it's the same type of deal, just a different bet with the over-under. But the fact that a book out in Vegas has got LSU's and I never heard this term, but the raw number, meaning not adjusted, 5.5. That's atrocious. And I think, if you've listened to me this week, you may feel like that I've been kind of negative Nancy, a nega-tiger, if you will, about the prospects I have for this team, my expectations for this team. But I'm not getting 5.5. Is 5 and 7 really in play? I sure hope not. There are certainly that many losable games, but the inclination they're going to lose them all, that's tough to swallow. To get to 5 and 7, you're going to have to go 2 and 6 in the league and lose to Florida State? Is that on the table? And I'm sure there are a bunch of people driving around or in the Bayou Ford chat that are looking around going, where show me that. I'll take that bet. I guess that's what Vegas wants you to do. That's why they're jacking it up to 6.5, making sure that LSU's got to get to 7 wins to get there. So on the one hand, it's kind of like, flattering that, hey, LSU, some teams people are betting them to win the national title. And then you realize, well, it's just because they never get LSU at 71, you might as well take a shot. And the second piece of it is this book thinks LSU's a 5 or 6 win team. That is a tough scene. But that piqued my interest looking at the numbers from Vegas. Brian Kelly was visiting with the Rotary Club today. You'll probably get some sound for that on Matt's show and probably with the guys in the morning tomorrow. I thought one of the lines that I liked from Brian Kelly, and this is just kind of me personally, is that he said that they're going to be demanding but never demeaning. And I'm not here to tell you that any of the previous staffs have been demeaning at any point, but it just, to me, feels incredibly professional when he speaks. He talks about the ways that he wants to implement things, speaks about what he's done in the past, what he needs to do in the future. And I think that that his approach is just going to be really refreshing to a lot of guys on this team. We talked with Jake Flint in the previous hour about the culture change and what he's seen. And, it sounds like these guys are in a pretty good spot mentally and that the guys have kind of taken to the new staff. And that's what you've got to get. Now, we'll see when they get out on the field. It matters when they win or lose, not what they say in a press conference, but that's kind of the way. Brian Kelly was also talking at Rotary Club about the offensive line. And I'm reading from Scott Ravelay's Twitter here. It said, still a lot of work to be done, but we put ourselves in position on the offensive line to be better than it was. Anthony Bradford is back in school, and Garrett Dellinger is back from an injury. Bradford's been a little bit of a forgotten guy. There was so much buzz around him in the preseason last year, and he played some last year. There were some injuries. There are injuries for just about everyone. So every time you go through a guy from last year, he battled with the injuries, whether it was in camp or happened earlier. It was why he missed the end of the season. Everybody got hurt at a certain point, and Anthony Bradford was certainly one of those. But, I'm trying to get to 9 offensive linemen you feel like can help you, because there's just no chance of going through a season and not dealing with it. I use this example multiple times every single year when I talk about offensive line. 2011, that team was not great throwing the ball. They were great running the ball, and the offensive line was a huge part of that. From left to right on the offensive line, you had Chris Falk, Will Blackwell, P.J. Lonergan, you had Josh Williford, and Alex Hurst. And that was your offensive line, left to right. And they were great. But all 5 of those guys missed time during the season, whether it was a couple of quarters in a game here or there because of some sort of, to use a lessism, nick, or whether it was missing significant time, missing 2 or 3 games. All 5. But T-Bob was ready to go, and Greg Shaw was ready to go, and they were SEC caliber players, and they stepped in and never really missed a beat, never really had to help too much. That's going to happen during a season. So you can't just go, here's our 5, that's what we need to play with. You've got to have multiple guys. And we know that they've brought in a couple of transfers in on the offensive line. You would expect Tremont Shorts to play. You know what you're going to start with at tackle with Wire and with Campbell. But what's it going to be at the center spot? Is Dellinger going to get a shot there? Can Bradford help you at guard? What about Cardell Thomas? You got to have like 8 or 9 guys. And last year was such a fire drill with the offensive line because you lost your offensive line coach late in the season, and then you added Brad Davis late, and he had to come in, and then everybody was hurt, and you're moving guys around. They couldn't go out there one practice in the spring and have their quote-unquote normal 5. There's always somebody down. Oh, he's back, but he's down. Oh, he's coming back tomorrow. Well, there's another injury. Like, they could not get it straight, and it hurt them bad early in the season. The depth should be a lot better this year. What the level of play is going to be, I can't tell you. I can't tell you what 2 lower-level transfers are going to be like. I can't tell you what a freshman left tackle is going to look like. But you've got to create some depth. And Brian Kelly said that they put themselves in a position to be better than it was on the offensive line, which is something that I certainly like to see. He kind of lamented the tight end position, said we've got to recruit some depth there. He'd like to be more multiple. They're not going to be able to be more multiple this year because they just don't have the numbers at tight end. Last year, LSU tried to run Jack Besh out there and I use air quotes again, tight end spot. He's a slot receiver. He's not a tight end. He'll get in there and hit somebody if he has to, but he'd rather run around and catch passes. So LSU, we know Brian Kelly's had some really good tight ends, and right now they're just not in a position to do that. So the quote that he uses to use Scott Ravelay's Twitter feed, he said, "We won't be as multiple as I'd like this year, but we'll manage," and that's what they're going to have to do. So Brian Kelly meeting with the Rotary Club today, a lot of sound coming out from that we'll get to on the station over the next 24 hours, I'd imagine. The last piece that I wanted to talk to here was Brian Kelly. Again, this is another coach coming in with kind of the exact same line that we're hearing from just about everybody. I heard Kirk Ferentz doing it today, and it came up again with Brian Kelly, said the intention of NIL is outstanding, but it's not regulated the way it should be, and we don't want to use it as an inducement. It's basically been said by every single coach. And part of it is they don't feel like they have as much control as they would like. These coaches like to control stuff. And when you get out in the wild, wild west, it's just difficult to control things. The other part of it is it's just a ridiculous pace as we've ripped out of the blocks here, and nobody knows what's in sight. So, like, there's a part of it that's probably correct. There's a part of it that's probably wanting to have a little more control than they have over players who have the opportunity to pursue things outside of their football program. But it's just part of it. So he's finally said that players are going to report on August 3rd. First practice is going to be August 4th. We are sitting here on July 27th, so it is real close, and we are very much looking forward to that. One more week without football actually on the practice field in Baton Rouge, but it is coming quicker than you can believe. So we'll be talking about it here on Hunt and Hill. We'll come back, talk Saints. They were out on the practice field today. That's next on Hunt and Hill.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge with Hunt and Hill.
Revelry tailgating, Revelry Sports and Entertainment, RevelryTeam.com. It is turnkey tailgating. If you're one of these guys who loves to get out there to campus at 6 o'clock in the morning, you want to get the tent out, you want to set up the cooking stuff, you want to put the stuff out, ice down all the drinks, you want to do the whole deal and run your tailgate, you're part of what makes LSU awesome. There's some of us that aren't as fired up to do that, and we like some help. And Revelry is here to do that. It is turnkey tailgating. They set up the tent for 20 or 30 people. They set up the furniture. This is high-end furniture, not just folding chairs. They set up your television. They stock your ice chest and put the ice in it. They've got your trash cleanup. They'll maintain the ice all day. They're here to help you. They've also got a bellhop service that can take your stuff from your car on a golf cart to your tailgating spot. Whether you want to entertain some clients, you want to do a team building exercise before an LSU game for your business, or you just want to get the gang together and have a great tailgate, Revelry will do it. It's right there outside Patrick F. Taylor Hall, 3 blocks from Tiger Stadium. Turns into a little village out there of tailgates. It is always an awesome time. You can get a season pass if you want. You can get a one-game tailgate if you want. You can do a premium package or just a standard package. It's up to you. You got to check out all out at RevelryTeam.com. Check it out, RevelryTeam.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's no secret, the best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton.
Charles Hannegriff, join us for the next edition of Jimmy Ott's Game Time, presented by Bet Rivers, where it snows seafood and steak in Gonzales. Andy Isco, Wes Reynolds, Randy McKay, and Jimmy Ott all join us. Jimmy Ott's Game Time, 6 p.m. weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt and Hill on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Big day down in Metairie. The Saints have put on the helmets. They are getting to work down there in Metairie. Training camp officially open. They reported yesterday, showed up for some drills today. And as it was reported today, Michael Thomas, who was on the PUP list to start training camp, went for an early morning workout in front of the Saints brass and passed with flying colors. So they allowed him to go out there and work out today. He was out there during the time the media was allowed to watch. There's a lot of video now on the internet of Michael Thomas out there running routes, catching passes. When they went to full squad, he did not participate, but in the individual portions, he was out there and looked to be running absolutely full steam ahead. You know, there's been a lot of buzz around Michael Thomas for a lot of reasons over the last 2 years. This was a top 5 wide receiver in the league, maybe the best wide receiver in the league for a short period early in his career, and things just kind of unraveled on him for a number of different reasons, and the fan base is watching it with their hands held out like, what the heck is going on? Where is this guy? Why do the Saints not know where he is? Is he hurt? Is he not? Did he have surgery? Why didn't he have surgery earlier? There were so many questions, and it brought into question the relationship that Michael Thomas had with the New Orleans Saints. And there were reasons to have questions because there were so many happenings where you're sitting back going, excuse me, what? You didn't know where he was? You didn't know when he was having surgery? Whose doctor did he see? Like, all this stuff that was going on. And there were reasons that you could sit back and look at this and be like, what the hell is going on? This guy's one of the best players in the sport. He's one of the best players on your team. He's huge for your success. Why does this relationship appear not to be as strong as it needs to be? And I thought today, Michael Thomas, when he met with the media, sounded like a guy who was grateful to be there and sounded like a guy who's ready to get to work. So here's some sound from today down in Metairie from Michael Thomas.
I'm kind of lost for words. I didn't want to come up here and get emotional or anything, but it was a blessing to definitely be back out there with the guys, being able to put my hand in the plow and just be out there to perfect my craft and compete and encourage guys and get ready to help DA win some games.
Again, that is an encouraging bite. Look, I've sat in press conferences. I've interviewed players. We talked all week last week about how SC Media Days is a lot of fluff and a lot of non-substantive material. But that quote to me was not a nothing burger. For him to say, he might get up there and be emotional, that sounds like a guy who's thrilled to be back. Not a guy who's fractured with his teammates. Not a guy who is not on the same page as the organization. And from the outside looking in, like, I don't know what the discussions were like. I just know that there were some quotes and some situations that were at least troubling regarding this matter between the all-pro wide receiver and the franchise that drafted him. So it was reasonable to think, man, this may be a problem. But I thought between today with him running routes, being out there, involved, passing a workout, catching balls from Jameis, and then what I consider genuine emotion coming from him in the press conference that followed, just a really, really positive day for Michael Thomas and the Saints. I was listening to Early Line yesterday and listening to Mario, and you've heard Hannegriff on Jimmy's show. Just nervous. Like, you've been away for basically 2 years, and then we get to training camp, and we're about ready to go, and then you show up on the PUP list? Why? What's wrong? This has been 2 years in the making. And there's, again, every reason to think that. But today was really, really big, I thought, for Michael Thomas to work out and then to sound as full of emotion as he did. Still on the PUP list as of this second. No one has reported differently. I would imagine that changes today. Marcus Davenport will start training camp on the PUP list. The return of Marcus May and Taysom Hill in some capacity is expected very quickly. And Jameis Winston has progressed on to 11-on-11 work. So there's a lot of injury questions. There's a lot of health questions. There's a lot of age questions, a lot of ability questions. There's a ton of questions that you can ask about these New Orleans Saints, but a lot of them seem to get pretty positive reports from everybody that was down there. I've done my best to kind of read through Twitter and go through some things. There's video of Michael Thomas that the Saints put up, and Jarvis Landry retweeted and said things that you love to see. It appears that everybody's thrilled that he's back out there, and that's a very, very good thing. Again, I wanted to take some time to allow all these videos to surface for the press conferences to happen so that we could have some of that kind of stuff, as opposed to leading the show with it. Another thing that we saw at Saints camp today, Alvin Kamara looked awesome, looked very, very quick, going through the bags, looked healthy, looked ready to go. We know that he's supposed to be a huge piece to this puzzle, just a matter of will they let him play, and that's just a matter of time that we have to sit here. And that's got to be, I think, the most difficult thing is when you're looking at this Saints situation. It just harkens me back to LSU basketball over the last 4 years. It's like, okay, just tell me what the deal is. Just tell me. Then we'll figure it out from there. And from now, if you're the Saints, you're looking at this going, okay, we know that our star running back is potentially facing some disciplinary action, but like, when's it coming? And as of right now, it's not. So, continues to Alvin Kamara continues to work out and continues to be front and center at Saints camp down there. Just helmets and jerseys today. No shoulder pads, no leg pads. They won't put the full pads on here for another week. The Saints were out there. So that's kind of the look at Saints camp. I'll continue to kind of comb through some things. Kind of difficult to do the show and continue to look through things, but it's an ever evolving day with what happens down there with press conferences, with video, with reports that come out, and so we'll continue to kind of surf through those as they become available to us. Tomorrow, we'll get a deeper dive. We'll go to Luke Johnson down there in Metairie, who's obviously been at camp today, and we'll get a look at what was going on. We know that, for example, James Hirsch was working out at left tackle. Trevor Penning was working out behind him. That's what we expected. We talked about that yesterday. So nothing earth-shattering today outside of Michael Thomas, and I think that's just a big, big deal because this team is just not going to be as good as it can be if he's not a huge piece to it. And the question that we asked, is it reasonable to think that he may have lost a step? He may not be the same guy. We'll see. He looked pretty healthy out there today. So the Saints are out there on the practice field. Tigers still a week away, but we are full steam ahead with some football talk. Come back and close out a Wednesday edition of Hunt and Hill.
This is Hunt and Hill on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. This week on DropBiscuit.com or wherever you listen to podcasts is our new series, Pops, the Louis Armstrong story. Pops is brought to you by New Orleans & Company. Check out NewOrleans.com and come visit New Orleans.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on all new 2022 Ram Black Widow trucks in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli? I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you were born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
And this year, 2022, it's time to finally treat yourself. Bring your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service. You want the latest and greatest marine technology? You want to go to the place that has not one, but two NMEA certified techs. Family owned and operated by the Sherman family for 30 years. Front-to-back is the answer in Baton Rouge for all of your custom boat needs. So head to fronttobackboatservice.com or find them on Facebook, Front to Back Boat Service.
Wednesday edition of Early Line. Training camps have opened across the NFL, and we look ahead to the upcoming season. And we make some fresh picks as part of our daily spread presented by Suspense Games. Join us 2 to 3 p.m. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hunt and Hill, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Fun 2 hours here on Hunt and Hill. Company had a huge meeting that everybody was invited to, except if you're on the air right now. So 3 of us very much not invited. We appreciate Casey and Taylor for hanging out with us, though, getting some work done while everybody else is hanging out having lunch. We're left out in the cold. But it's better, I guess, than when Moscona always misses the crawfish. Well, at least we get to go to that. So, strikes and gutters, I guess you may say. As we do to finish off every single show, let's play some Take It or Leave It. Taylor Sharp, fire away.
Yeah, Albert Pujols had a gold chain break during an at-bat. He then handed it to Laz Diaz to hold during the inning, holding six-figure jewelry for someone during a game. Take it or leave it.
Laz Diaz is the umpire. Pujols has this huge gold chain on, and it breaks, and it falls down. He, picks it up. He doesn't really know what to do, so he just kind of balls it up and hands it to Laz Diaz. And then he just starts laughing. And I think Laz realizes, he's holding the most expensive piece of jewelry he's ever seen. And now he's responsible for this. I think, if you're Albert, you got to walk that back to the dugout or something. I mean, it's mid at bat. You're probably not going to get a hit anyway because you're 104 years old. But that's a little much to ask the umpire to be in charge of your – I mean, how much does this thing cost? I don't know what gold chains cost if they weigh that much. We got to be thinking a couple $100,000, huh?
I would think.
I'm going to leave it.
All right, Ric Flair will fight one more match next week at the age of 73. Watching a 73-year-old wrestle, take it or leave it.
I'm going to go ahead and leave this. I read this story on Ric Flair. He's been training really hard. He's had some health scares, as you might imagine, a guy that's been in that line of work for as long as he's been in. But to watch a 73-year-old try to wrestle, I'm not sure. I guess you want to watch him yell woo, and that's good, and maybe those that are big wrestling fans will enjoy seeing him out there one more time, kind of like an old-timers game at Yankee Stadium or something. But I just can't I can't quite get on board with watching a 73-year-old do a lot of wrestling. I'm going to have to leave that one.
Did you see the 30 for 30 they did on him?
I did not.
About a year ago?
No.
His real last name is Flair.
Oh, I didn't know.
But it's spelled differently.
See? That's okay. Well, sometimes you got to make things up for showbiz.
Attending a training camp, NFL training camp, take it or leave it.
Okay. I'll take it. It's fine if people want to attend training camp. I was looking today. The line to go to Steelers camp today was just miles of cars long.
Everybody wants to see Mitch.
Oh God, Mitch! No, nobody wants to see Mitch. But I think the aspect of kids getting to see their heroes pretty up close and personal, certainly much closer than seeing them on TV, or if you get to go to the Dome and sit up in the nosebleeds. There is an appeal to that, I guess. My point is, as somebody who's been to a lot of football practices over the years, football practice is pretty boring. I just to lay that out there, I think, and I got that because when Les was here, they opened some practices in the spring to any student that wanted to go, and you had 400 students lining the sideline. And I talked to some of them after, and they're like, "Yeah, I thought it would be a little bit cooler than that." And it's just it's not all that interesting. But you know what? It's that time of year. We're coming out of the dog days of summer. Football's in the air. Everyone loves football. I'm not going to criticize people for going to training camp. I think if you want to go, that's awesome. I'm just telling you that it's probably not the most interesting thing that you've ever watched. They run a toss play, and then they tackle them, and then they go back and huddle, and some coach pulls the guy off to the side and starts talking to him, and then they put the backup quarterback in, and he runs a toss play, and it's not, they hit a bunch of sleds, and it's just not awesome to watch. But if you want to go check out your heroes, you want to go see your team, because it's football time in your world, have at it.
Bryson DeChambeau reportedly recruited Paul Casey and others to live golf. Bryson is golf's biggest villain. Take it or leave it.
Is the biggest. I'll leave it. He's not the biggest. I've got real beef with Sergio right now. He's been brutal over the last few weeks because it just complaining to the tour. And they asked him after the British Open was over if he had fun. He said not really. He's jumped the shark. I've had it with him. But Bryson has not been awesome. I will say his answers to some of the live questions have been better than other guys. And Mickelson is in some hot water, too. So I can't say that Bryson's the biggest villain in golf, but he's certainly not the most popular guy.
Wilson Contreras says he hasn't had meaningful contract extension talks with the Cubs since 2017. Front office malpractice. Take it or leave it.
We'll take that. That is very much front office malpractice. He came up in 2016. He was a phenom catcher who had been in your organization since he was 16 years old, signed out of Venezuela, hit a home run in his first at-bat, was basically the starting catcher on a World Series championship team in 2016, and you try to talk to him one time about extending his contract? That's insane. And it's hard for me to imagine that that's a true statement, but it's been what's reported. And if that's the case, the Cubs are just a disaster. Like, you don't have to sign him, but you should talk to him once in the last 5 years, especially when everyone else comes off your payroll. You're not paying Rizzo. You're not paying Bryant. You're not paying Baez. You're not paying Lester. You're not paying anybody. Maybe pay the best catcher in the league. Maybe a thought. That is absolutely malpractice on the front offices, but it's not surprising at this point.
Notre Dame unveiled new uniforms with a hangover reenactment. The Gold Domers in new threads. Take it or leave it.
I'm leaving it on the uniforms. I hate the uniforms. Notre Dame has got one of the most classic uniforms in the sport, even though it's kind of gotten worse over the years because the pants are so dull and the helmet is so shiny as opposed to what it was like in the 80s and 90s where they kind of matched. So it kind of looks goofy, but it's still an iconic look. So they should never go to new uniforms. That should never happen for Notre Dame. But once again, I'm an old man screaming at a cloud, and that's the way things are going to go. However, the method with which they unveiled this new uniform was phenomenal. If you missed this, it's too long for us to use in radio format, but it's awesome on YouTube or on Twitter where you can find it. They did the entire desert scene from The Hangover, where they apparently have Doug in the back of the car, but it turns out to be the wrong Doug, and Kim Jong's in there, and Bradley Cooper's trying to negotiate, and the whole deal. And they redid the thing with the Golick boys and Marcus Freeman and two players out in Vegas. And it's really, really well done. They basically did it shot for shot with the lines. It's awesome. And I think Marcus Freeman might be able to be an actor. He's incredible in this thing. So if you have not seen the way Notre Dame unveiled these ugly new uniforms, go check it out on the internet. It is very, very well worth your time. So I'm 100% leaving the fact that Notre Dame needs new uniforms. I am taking the way they announced them. I thought it was really, really cool. That'll just about do it for today's show. A little bit of a recap what we talked about today, because I thought the first hour was a lot of fun. We opened things talking about the college football playoff, and I determined that I have now come to a conclusion on what I think the best solution for a playoff is, and I stated the reasons why. And I don't see a ton of reasons why not at this point. So missed that catch at the top of the show. Jake Flint, new strength coach at LSU. They call him the director of athletic development. We had him at 12:15 talking about the summer that he had with his new guys. Also talked about some of his family life, which was fun as well. Brady Neal, I think the biggest piece to this LSU recruiting class, was with us at 12:30. He affirmed over and over again that he is an LSU Tiger. Of course, that doesn't mean anything until August the 1st when the dust actually settles. But we had a good discussion with Brady Neal. He played in high school with Tommy White. Talked to him about that. Talked to him about the coaching change. He was close with Nolan Cain and had a close relationship with him, but was able to switch over to the new staff and loves what they're doing. He is here now on campus. So had an opportunity to talk for a good bit with Brady Neal in the first hour, so you can check that as well. In the second hour, we got to some Saints talk, a little bit of Vegas talk for LSU football. So catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand page, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that good stuff. Matt Moscona's going to drive you home today from 3 to 6 on After Further Review. Jimmy Ott's Game Time 6 to 8 with Charles Hannegriff. Mario and Musso are coming up next with Early Line. A lot of Saints talk tomorrow. Hope you have a great Wednesday. We will see you tomorrow on Hunt and Hill.